and my my my
My
parents weren't, they were young, so it's hard to have kids even when you're older. So they would argue a lot, and there would be like a lot of violence in the house, and it would come from even like from their parents. It went kind of down to them, and then down to me. So I was stuck in the middle of that, and I used video games. Video games were a huge thing for me. I loved video games, like escape from reality. I like just gone, like nothing mattered. I was playing my SpongeBob game, and nothing else mattered. And so, that goes on for my life. I'm about 6, 7 years old now, and my dad gets into an accident, and he gets paralyzed. He's cut open. His legs don't work anymore. He says the doctors say he's never gonna walk again. You're done. And at this time, my family's they're Christian. They come into this church actually. So when I was like that age, they were coming to this church. But the accident messed them up really bad. Like it for sure put a strain on their faith and everything. And he obviously being in a big accident like that, he had to take painkillers for it. And after he took them, I guess they just kind of stuck. And he ended up just staying on them even when he didn't need them. And it kind of messed him up. And he was kind of never the same after that. And then later on, my parents split, and me still playing video games. The world doesn't really matter too much to me. So my dad leaves, and me and my mom are kind of like homeless at this point. Everything hits the fan. We're living in the car, and then that's where Leanna, Thomas's mom, takes us up, and now we're living in a garage. Which is better than being in a car, for sure. And then that's where my mom meets Thomas, which is my current stepdad. And that's where we end up moving out of Leanna's house, and I'm still just into video games. Really life doesn't really matter so far. I'm just into video games, and then food also. I'm very chubby. I was a very fat kid. So gluttony was for sure a big thing. I love sweets. I love Big Macs and everything like that. So that was just huge for me. And then, those are my two sources of escape. I got dopamine. I got escape. I'm good. It doesn't matter. Now I'm about 12. So my dad starts getting physical with me. He starts like beating me a little bit, and then so I stopped talking to him completely. I cut him off. So I don't see my dad anymore after this point. And we're kind of going to church. We're here and there. So God's in the picture somewhat, but he's distant. And so at this age, though, this is where pornography comes into my life. And with video games and that and gluttony, it was just kind of like game over for me. Like those are my lords. Like dopamine, just like in the world, just I just like that's all I craved as that as a child. And no one told me that it was bad. I didn't have like anyone to like talk to me, so explain this to me. So I grew up, and this kind of just stuck in my life. Like my relationships were skewed. The way I looked at girls, the way I looked at guys, it was all messed up. I couldn't like really think straight. So I had a very skewed reality at this age. And then later on, I'm getting older, and I'm starting to like get into girls, and I'm starting to like question like, why don't I ever date anyone? I'm like getting like older, like teenage years, and so. While that's going on, my family actually starts going to this church, and we all end up liking it. It's like a good church, and I find like people I know that from school, and I meet them there, and we're like it's a good time, and I get more into like the faith. I understand a little bit more, and I would say I was kind of a Christian at this point, and then the church burns down. Church burns down, and then everyone disbands, kind of like, and then they try to start up a new church, but it doesn't do so well. But in my mind, I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? Yeah. So as this is going on, I'm trying to figure out like what am I gonna do with my life? Like I'm not really into my faith too much. It's like whatever. As a teenager, I just kind of was just. I would say I'm Christian. Like if someone asked me, I would say yeah, I'm a Christian. But Now, at this point in my life, I was like, you know what? I don't really like school. I don't really want to go to school. And so I decided to become a YouTuber. Like, that was like it. Like, I was like, I'm going to just be a YouTuber in my video games. Video games are my Lord, so might as well make them, my source of money. So I started my YouTube channel, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this for God. Like, I don't know why I thought this in my head, but I was like, if I just get a big YouTube channel, I could spread my message to everyone. Like, I could just tell everyone about God, if I'm just like have a million subs. And so I started this YouTube channel. It grows, and I get a little, I get from like 10 views to 100 views to 1,000 views to 100,000 views, and I start getting like people on it, and I'm like really excited. And then as that happens, I slowly forget about God. So as my channel is growing, I'm like just distancing myself from God more and more until and then at this point the church completely disbands, and now I'm like God's like in the back of my, nowhere near in my mind. And so now and at this age, I'm now like 16, 17, and I get like discouraged. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna I'm sick of not dating anyone. That's still brewing in my mind. I'm like, I really want like someone to date, because I don't know. I was a teenager. So I get all this courage. I built up all this courage to ask this girl I liked for years. I liked her, and I go and ask her, and she's a year older than me. And at this point, I'm a junior, so I never dated anyone until I was a junior. And then I ask her, and she's like, no, like I'm going to college. I'm going to Santa Barbara. Like I'm not gonna date you. And so this is my first rejection ever, and I'm just like I'm distraught. And so I'm just done for. And then I just used that like anger and that frustration in me, and I just worked out for the entire summer. Like the entire summer, I starved myself. I worked out every day, never taking a day off. And I came back to school, and I was looking really good. And then I noticed like everyone was like looking at me, like all these girls had like I got their attention. I was like, okay, this is interesting, like I never had this before. I was a chubby, like greasy Mexican kid. And so this now, like I'm buff, I'm leaning out, my jawline's coming in, and I'm just like, this is it's a weird feeling. And I start to let that lord over me. So video games go out the window after this happens. Girls paying attention to me. I don't care about video games. Who cares? And so I I fall in love with that. I fall in love with like vanity. I want to work out. I want everyone to see me. I want everyone to like just be envious of me. I wanted people to envy me. And so even at that point, I'm like a senior now. So I'm in school. I'm a senior, and I get a motorcycle. I was like, you know what? I want more. So I get a motorcycle, and my pride grows. And this kind of just keeps going on. And I get in relationships. I start having sex. My sex mind is still skewed. I still look at women not the right way. And so this keeps going on. My YouTube channel dies. And I just start like trying to have fun with life. I start hanging out with people, having sex, doing drugs. Just here and there. I never liked drugs too much. I never liked alcohol, so I just do it here and there when people told me, whatever. Because I had a very weak conscience at this point. I knew about God, I knew about Christianity, but it wasn't in me. I didn't like care too much. And so then later on, I met this girl, and she was an atheist. And in my mind, I'm like, who cares? So I start dating her. And I started really liking her, so I ended up moving out with her. So I move out with this girl. She's an atheist, and at this point, my sin's building up. My connection with God is like almost non-existent, and I'm moved out. I can do whatever I want. Like, I'm invincible. I can do everything. And so drugs creep in a little bit more, and at this moment, I end up having a pretty good life for myself. Like in materialistic terms, like in my head, I was like, I have sex, I have a good job. I was working for Sony at this time. I had a nice car. I had an easy living situation. I looked good. I was healthy. I had a bunch of friends. And at this point, I should have been the happiest. I should have been on top of the world. But something was still sitting in me that wasn't right. Like I still wanted more. And so I ended up doing more drugs. I started getting more into like weed and nicotine and stuff like that. And I went hard into it. I'm a person that goes 0 to 100 in everything. So I just started doing weed. I started smoking weed. Started smoking nicotine. And it was just like there was this peace in me that I couldn't get this peace I wanted. And what we did, it supplemented the feeling, because I would go numb when I'd smoke weed, in a sense of like I don't have like this weird feeling. Like I wanted to feel this feeling in me, and even with all the stuff I had, I couldn't feel it. And so I started using drugs, and that caused me to get into like a weird reality, and then smoking led to worse drugs too. And I started doing them almost every day. And then those drugs lead me to completely going against God. Like I straight up, one day I was on these drugs and I straight up denounced them. I was like, you know what? No, I don't believe in you. Like, I'm done with you. Like, I'm too smart for you. Like, for all I know, I'm God. Like, I don't, like, who cares? Like, I'm done with you. And so this is where it leads to kind of him throwing that on my head. I still couldn't get that peace in me though. You know, I still wanted it, and at this point I was doing more and more drugs. So I realized that my girlfriend at the time, she kind of like stopped caring, because all I did was like get high all the time. So she stopped caring. So I was like, you know what, I'm done. And I broke up with her. And then obviously I lived with her. So now I'm kicked out of the house. A lot of her family was my friends, and so I ended up losing a bunch of friends, and I lost, a person I cared about. I was basically homeless with a drug problem. And then to add on, this is when COVID hit. So I lost the job. Sony cut me. They still paid me, but they just had me like, I'm not working. Like, you're not going anywhere. No one's buying TVs. And so I had, all I had was money, and I had a drug problem, and all the time in the world. So, and I'm homeless, I'm in a bad situation. So now I'm just couch surfing, going to my parents, my grandparents, and now I have like nothing. I'm completely depressed. Like, I didn't feel peace when I had everything, and now that I have nothing, like, you can only imagine how much more depressed I was. And it got terrible to where I started taking anti-anxiety medication. And when I took it, I kind of blacked out. I would black out for like the entire day, and then I wouldn't remember what I did. So I would take this for a couple months, but I didn't like myself on them. I remember what I did was usually dumb, and I usually acted dumb when I was on them. So even me not being a Christian, I was just like, I don't want to be dumb, like I'd rather not. And so I got off this medication, but after getting off anti-anxiety, I felt even worse. Taking something to supplement the pain and then getting off of it, you're just in such a worse situation. I wanted to kill. I was suicidal for like months. I was like, you know what? I just like, who cares? Like, I just want to end it. And then, but I was scared to kill myself. So I wanted to figure out like what's real. Like, let me figure out what's real first before I do that. So I was messing with more drugs to figure out like what's real, what spiritual side am I on. And so I got my life back together a little bit. I'm still working at Sony. Came back around. The pandemic was like ceasing, and I started like working out. I started taking cold showers. Started meditating. Started like doing like everything I could, journaling and like poetry and stuff like that. I tried everything, and I was like, and I felt like this. I got this like peace that I wanted. It was very like very euphoric peace. And then, but obviously I was doing drugs at this time still. So implemented, but then like it was weird. At random moments, I would just feel like suicidal. So I'd have this peace, but then I would just feel like I wanted to die with it. And so it was weird. It was like fake peace. Obviously it was fake peace, but so this is happening, and I'm kind of getting tired of it. I'm getting tired of like the wrestling battle of like, these drugs are making me feel better. Oh, I want to die. So I was like wrestling that, and I got tired, and I just started taking the drugs to have fun. I was like, who cares? Like, let me just live this experience with whatever I got. And so I started taking harder drugs, and that made me have like a skewed reality. Like I thought, I was the universe, and I thought like, all that stuff. I never got into like stars or crystals, but I was really into like the guru path, like new age type stuff. And one day I just took a dose that I shouldn't, like I took a big dose, like more than I ever could of these drugs, and I ended up I was with my friend, so I was just taking these drugs, and I took a huge amount. Like, I just kind of didn't care if I died or lived, and it was weird. I just like in the middle of me being like the highest I've ever been, I felt sober, and it was super strange. Like, I was like, like you don't get high, there's not a point where you get to where you're like, oh, you're so high, I'm sober now. So and I felt really strange. Like it felt like I was in real life, but that it felt realer than real, if that makes sense. And I was like, what's going on? And I noticed everything around me was like freaking me out. Like I was like in a weird situation. Like everything was disturbing, and nothing was good. Like I was so like overwhelmed by like, and then just anxiety flooded my body, stress, anxiety, fear, and I was like, what's going on? Like what's really happening? And then I was like, all right, you know what? And in my head, I was like, you know what? Like I can't deal with this. Like I'm going crazy. I'm just gonna ask God, like help me. And then I was like, and I asked him, and then I realized, wait a minute, I can't think of his name. Like I was like, wait a minute, I'm thinking like there's a being, but I can't say his name. Like I kept saying Todd. I said like Todd. I was like, who's Todd? Like no, and I couldn't like think of God's name. I couldn't say Jesus. I couldn't say God. And so I was like, that's weird. And so I look at my, I try to text it. I'm like, okay, maybe if I text it, he'll come to me. And then I look on my phone, and the letter G's gone. So I can't spell God. I can't say God. I can't think God. And I was like, wait a minute, like what's going on? And there's something my mom told me, I forgot when, but she said that, hell is the absence of God. And I was like, oh wait, like I'm in hell. Like I overdosed on these drugs. I died and I went to hell forever. This is it. And so I'm in hell, and I'm like freaking out. Like what's happened? Like, am I stuck here forever? I thought I was. Like I thought I died and went to hell. And so I'm stuck in hell. I don't really like, everything's very confusing, everything's disturbing. I try to close my eyes and things are like tormenting me. It's like, just kill yourself. That's all I heard. And like I saw myself dying. I saw myself like killing myself, and I was just like, what? Like there was no peace like at all. Like I couldn't think of like anything to make me feel any type of better, and like no one was gonna save me. Like I'm in who can save me at this point? What amount of money can save me? So I was like in this hopelessness, like despair, and my friend that was there with me, he kind of like, best way I can describe it is either I was in a state where he turned into like a demon or something, because he was just tormenting me in there. So he was like gone. I was alone. I was completely alone in this place, and there was just things tormenting me as I was stuck in this place of like turmoil. And I was thinking, I'm here forever. It's only getting worse. As I'm experiencing this hell, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And so I'm like, okay. And I think about killing myself, but then I get scared that if I kill myself, I'll just stay in this spot, and like I'll realize I'm in hell that much more. And so I was just afraid of killing myself, but I wanted to. And then I get like this flight or fight instinct. I was like, you know what? Last scenario, I'm gonna call my mom. Like, I'm gonna call my mom and get her to come, because I know she'll come. It's like 2 a.m. It's like 2 a.m. in the night, and I'm high, tripping, and I call my mom, and then and my phone disconnects like 8 times. Like I can't call her. Like my phone doesn't connect, and so I'm thinking like this is just like, I'm stuck here, so this isn't gonna work. I keep thinking like this isn't gonna work. Like I keep calling her, and then she picks up, and it's weird. It sounds like she's like not her. And then it breaks up again, and then I call her one more time, and then she answers, and she's like, what's going on? Like, it's like 2 a.m. Like what can your kid call you for? And so I ended up telling her like, I forgot what I told her. I was like, just come pick me up. Like I'm in Keys. I didn't know the address. I was too gone to like know the address. So I was like, I'm in Keys. Come pick me up. And then she comes over. And I'm trying to ask my friend that was next to me like the address, and he kept like playing with me. Like he kept like writing down the address in weird ways so I couldn't understand, and he didn't want to tell me. He just kept like playing with me, and he's like you're not getting an address, And then my mom heard him over the phone like not answering me, because I kept asking like what's the address. I was like yelling at him. And then eventually my mom came. She picked me up, and they said I'm kind of blacked out at the end of the night. And she just said that the only thing I was saying as they picked me up, they said I was slurring my words, and the only thing I could say is God slapped me, like God slapped me, God slapped me, God slapped me. And then this led to me like waking up the next morning. I was still traumatized for months after. I was just like I wanted to die, because I was like I just felt like I was still in hell, but the devil was like playing with me in hell, like, oh, like here's your hope, and then taking it right before I get it. And so I just was having like post-traumatic stress, and I just wanted to die. And so I was like, you know what? Like if this hell thing is real, like if I can end up in this place forever, I'm like, who cares? Like who cares what happens to me right now? Like I just need to dedicate my life to God. And so I just do like a full 180. Because when I was doing like the drugs and stuff, I would try to convert people to like what I was doing. I was like, no, Christianity's dumb. I would try to bring people to where I was doing. And so I did a full 180. I was like telling everyone about God and everything. And during this time, I still had, because I was doing dark things. I was doing drugs. I was like opening up doors to like demons, and I was just letting things in. And so they weren't letting me go easy. I would see like demons in my sleep. I would see demons in real life. I would have like visions of like, if I went to like Catholic churches, and they helped me out a lot, actually, the Catholic church. And like, but when I would go in there, I would feel like heavy. I couldn't breathe. When I went to church, I would like the priest's face were like disturbing, like they looked like they were like dead. And I was just like, it was horrifying to even like try to seek God. And then after some time I got through it, I kept reading my Bible. All I cared about was God. Like nothing mattered. Like literally nothing. Like I was like, if hell's real, literally nothing matters. Like whatever I thought mattered does not matter. And so, I just kept going in that path. I was like, I need to seek God with all my heart. And through all the like temptation and the oppression and like the attacks, I just got through it up to this point where I met Jada. And then she was going through a very similar thing as me. She was afraid of hell as well. And so we talked and we met up, and we eventually, now we're married. we got married after that. And I was still like fighting. I was still fighting like these demons even throughout, and I'm still fighting today. But it just got better and better. So like God like made things better and better the more I persevered through it. Like and then I noticed I have like this peace like I never experienced before. Like I thought I had this peace when I was on these drugs and like afterward, but there was just like this weird sensation in me. Like I loved it. I enjoyed it so much. And like looking back on it, like why would God send me through that hell? But I remember reading a verse where it says like God disciplines his children. And it's like, if you are his children, he is going to discipline you. Like if he doesn't discipline you, that means he doesn't love you, which obviously he loves everyone. But he definitely disciplined me in a big way, like sending me to hell. And that's what turned me around. And so after I got turned around, now I'm kind of living like the life I had before. I have a really nice job. I love my job now more than I did Sony. I have like a good car, I have a really good living situation. I now have a wife, and a godly wife too at that, from an atheist partner to a godly wife, it's completely different ballgame. And so I would just say don't let the worthless things of this world like entangle you, because the sin's going to keep you away from God. And it's going to do it very gradually and slowly to where you don't even notice it until one day you're saying like, no, God, I don't need you. Like, I don't want you, God. And then you just have to rely on his grace at that point. Like we all do though. But at that point, like you're not going to want God, but he wants you. He's going to pull you. Just don't, it's not worth the risk. It could have gone the completely different direction. I could have killed myself within that year of me being suicidal. I could have just ended myself, and that would have been it. Like I would have ended up in hell forever. And after seeing hell and like going through it, I can tell you that I wouldn't want the worst person in the world to go there. Even Satan is afraid of that place. It's not fun. So just make sure you take care of your relationship with God, because that comes first forever. That's what's gonna last. And if you think that you'll be okay without God, I've seen the place that is absent of God, and you won't be okay. Yeah, that's all.
Man, thank you so much. That was such a blessing. Amen. What a beautiful testimony. And like I said earlier with my encouraging words, where would I be if not for his grace? Amen. Where would Alfredo be if not for the grace of God? Amen. We are going to turn it into Brother Joe's hands. Brother Rodriguez, come on up.